You're watching France 24. Welcome to the business interview. I'm Markus Karlsson. Factories around Europe are slowing down, and the Eurozone is seen to be hurtling towards another economic downturn. How bad will that be for business, and how long will it last? Well, the German engineering group Siemens is seen as a bellwether for the global economy, with a presence in around 190 countries. And today, I'm speaking to the chief executive of Siemens here in France, Christophe de Maistre. Welcome to the program. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now, how concerned are you as more and more economists seem to be saying that we are heading towards a recession?
Well, basically, from my understanding, there's not a clear recession in front of us. I believe it's just a mutation. I think France and a lot of other countries in Europe have to adapt to the new environment. I think it's a hiccups from the new globalization trend. I'm not sure we should talk about a crisis. From my understanding, in the business we are in, this means industrial business, we are not, touched by this slowdown or this crisis.
So you're sounding pretty upbeat. That's pretty rare in times such as these. You still have a strong order book? Is that the case?
Yes, we did enjoy, great orders, especially last year, not only in the world or in the emerging countries, but as well in France, if I'm talking about France. We enjoy, big orders, structural orders for supergrids. Right now, everyone is talking about it, about new internet connection between the European countries. And Siemens France was awarded together with our colleague in Spain for the first connection. HVDC is high voltage current, DC current, between France and Spain. And this is working pretty well. So we had also a record year last year regarding a new photovoltaic wind farm. So this was extremely well perceived. So the biggest farm worldwide is located in France, in Les Alpes de Haute-Provence, and we have been doing pretty well. So there's a lot of opportunities. Everyone is seeing the crisis as basically a recession or potentially fears about jobs. Is, from my understanding, just a redeployment.
But aren't you concerned, though, that you're going to be caught off guard if indeed we are heading for negative growth? Isn't that risk?
There's always risk, and we are Siemens. We are always preparing for headwinds in case they will happen and they will occur. So, from my understanding, they have not yet materialized. That's fact. So, if I'm looking at the last quarters, we're still growing. So, and if you're looking at all the recession, all the information communicated from all the other companies, not only Siemens, the others, we're still growing. So, of course, there is one phenomenon that we need also to emphasize, that we are just recovering also from the real crisis that happened in 2008. So we are still, from my understanding, in the recovering mode still. So, of course, right now we first enjoy a great, shape and good recapturing of orders. Right now, this growth is flattering a little bit. So, of course, there is uncertainties coming up out of the market. They're mainly, from my understanding, financially related.
Okay.
So the people, simply our customers or investors, are a little bit afraid of potential credit crunch.
So you're saying that the real economy is actually doing fairly well, if not great, all right?
I will say they're tending, more and more to do well. I will not say any more great, because great was more or less related to the recovery stage. So nowadays it's flattering a little bit more, but I do not foresee yet a potential crisis. Everyone is prepared for this. We have putting in place contingency measures in case such a crisis as it happened in 2008, when all of a sudden, overnight, I would say, we had a 30% drop into an order books in your daily businesses. Then, of course, in case this kind of crisis will happen the second time, this will be a kind of double dip in terms of economic environment. And of course, then we would have to react, and promptly.
Now, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So that's the old adage. The worst case scenario in this case has been described as a breakup of the Eurozone.
Yes.
Is that a scenario that you are preparing for actively?
No, I don't believe it will happen at all. I think the relationship between especially Germany and France, but also Italy, all the environment is extremely close and tied together. So I do not foresee this kind of scenario to happen, frankly speaking.
So you're not preparing for it, just in case?
No, really seriously, we're not preparing for this. I think we don't believe a collapse of the whole Eurozone will happen. I don't foresee it at all.
Now, as you've been saying, there are different performances in different European economies. How is Siemens France doing as opposed to the rest of the Siemens group?
Well, basically, we are doing slightly a little bit better, but our size of the business around about 3 billion euros. So if you compare with big Siemens with doing a 75, 76, I would say, billion euro, so actually we have been doing in the same moods. This means around about 18% growth, and Siemens worldwide have been enjoying a 16% growth. So I will not too much, I would say, speculate or interpret, I would say, the slight differences. No, I think Siemens is involved in the main businesses, have already redirected the whole strategy toward, I would say, what we say the mega trends, aging population, urbanization, I would say economical, I would say globalization in the sense of bringing a global economy, but also very much important for us is renewable technologies. All kind of main decision regarding our strong growth levers have been already made a few years ago. So our portfolio suits pretty well to the demand of the market, as simple as that. And I think Siemens in this area has shown, I would say, a clear strategic vision about the future, how we intend to reshuffle to a certain extent our business portfolio. We are not anymore relying on what I would say technology, but basically suitable for probably others on emerging countries. We are trying to focus on certain areas, especially in Europe. I'm talking about Europe, where we might be also becoming really a trendsetter.
And where and in what areas in particular, in what sectors are you seeing the most potential for growth at this stage?
If we're talking in France, I will clearly identify this energy. As I said, when our super grid is coming, so this means tomorrow we'll be able with the Desertec projects and also to pick up, I would say, energy from the southern countries, especially North Mediterranean, I would say, countries, and bring this power back to Europe. And for this, you need a kind of super grid structure.
You need a lot of engineering.
You need engineering, you need infrastructure, you need, I would say, investments. On the other hand, we have also in France also major undertaking regarding projects for wind farms. There's also 5 big projects coming up. So we are also interested to participating in those adventure and new setups. And for Siemens, it's quite also not a new business. We started with wind offshore already 20 years ago, so in Germany with first experiments. So we are worldwide market leader. We are keen to invest in France. So I see a lot of opportunities. So in a different kind of area, when European standards are basically the highest standard in the world. If you are right now looking at energy efficiency, for instance, is also one of the major topic and growth area without any end. Because all the major contenders in the world and competitors as well from Siemens are located as well in France. So we have a kind of emerging talent, a pool of talent, what is something I would say completely remarkable from my point of view in France. Something very special. We have a great environment of technology, engineers, and we have just to use those resources, available resources.
I want to change tack a little bit.
Yes,
now,
please.
you became chief executive of Siemens France in February of 2011, so February this year. Before that, you spent a long time in Asia. Aren't you a little bit bored, though, to come back to Europe, where there's the weather is worse, for one, and also where there's a lot of doom and gloom at the moment?
Well, of course, it's always a little bit complicated to come back after being abroad for a very long period. In my case, it was 11 years in China and having before been assigned to Germany. So, of course, it's a big change. I had the pleasure to enjoy a great environment in China.
And that's where the growth is at the moment, isn't it? In Asia, that's where everyone is focusing at the moment. That's why I would like to ask you, aren't you a little bit bored, perhaps, coming back to gloomy old Europe?
Well, basically not at all. I think it's a different challenge. I think it's a different kind of growth as well. China is in the wage of equipping the whole environment, setting a new infrastructure and so on. But the need and the kind of solution they're required is slightly different to the one we have to set up in Europe. Again, we have to look in Europe, and I will try to use a little bit some examples. If you're checking, for instance, for railway, China is setting up railways because they need those huge, massive investments for bringing the mobility across the country, huge country, almost a continent. But in France, if you're looking in France, what we are doing in France, we are trying to use existing network like RATP network, old wagons and so on, but just modernizing them for the full automation score and investing a lot in making sure then afterwards the equipment will be used in a much efficient manner. Those mean we are renovating the whole, investing in automation, making sure the line 1 or line 14 you're probably familiar with, I hope so.
We're talking the Parisian metro here.
Exactly, and then the fully automated without any conductors. That's a brilliant technology developed in France for the world. So this means you just have not only, this is kind of a shift, a paradigm shift, I would say, in terms of organization. We have to focus on the high level. We cannot stick on the whole stuff. We have basically to develop our own new areas of competences where we want afterwards to export. But the demand, you have a big difference between China, of course, enjoying a great growth, because the momentum or GDP increase per annum is around about 8 to 10% per annum. But if you compare it to Europe, then you have a 2-3% probably growth, but in a complete different scale. So you just have to renovate ourselves, and therefore, what I stressed before, and I believe I would like to insist on this, I don't believe this is a crisis at all. In terms of economic footprint or manufacturing footprint, I believe we simply have to change our way to think and to look for new areas of development complementary to those one being used in those emerging countries.
All right. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it up, though. Thanks very much indeed, Christophe Lemay,
Thank you very much for inviting me
to us today. And with that, we're going to wrap up the program as well. Thanks for watching.